Hi, everybody. This is Steve, Monday Chief Forecaster with Rowan County Weather. Excited that we're going to be doing our podcast today that has a very special guest, NASCAR driver Corey Lajoie. Corey will be joining us in just a few moments. But first, before we get started, I did want to thank our sponsor who helps make these podcast interviews possible, William Ryan Enterprises, located at 1600 North Main Street in China Grove. You can stop by and check out their store they have there. It's in the Old Grove Supply building there. And not only is it William Ryan Enterprise, it's also William Ryan Flooring and Solutions. So if you're looking to do a home renovation or remodel, or even do a custom home, these are the guys you want to help you. They can certainly help you out with that. And again, thank you to William Ryan Enterprises for helping us sponsor these podcast interviews that we're going to be doing. We've been doing some of these already with local high school sports student athletes, local coaches. We've also interviewed Charlotte FC coaches. We've interviewed Charlotte FC broadcasting analyst Jessica Charman. And today, again, we're going to be interviewing Corey Lajoie. This is all following the interview we did just a few weeks ago with Doug Rice from the Performance Racing Network. So we're continuing to talk with NASCAR drivers. And without further ado, we're going to have Corey Lajoie join us in just a moment. Hi, everybody. We're joined now by NASCAR driver Corey Lajoie. Corey, thank you so much for joining us today. We certainly appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be jumping on here. In the middle of a little new shop tour here at Spire Motorsports, trying to move into Kyle Busch's old shop. So seeing what the progress is with these guys moving in.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing that unfold. You guys are actually right around the corner from where I live. I live in southeast or southwest Rowan County, right there, just outside of Mooresville, and literally could almost throw a rock from where I'm at to where your new shop is. So looking forward to seeing all that unfold.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, man. This shop's really sweet. A lot of trophy cases here. A lot of trophy cases here to try to fill up because that guy won a lot of races.
He did indeed, but you've got some talent yourself, and I'm looking forward to seeing your career continue to progress. If we just kind of recap, if my notes are correct, recapping 2023, you had two top five finishes, three top 10 finishes. You finished 25th in points overall. But the thing I really like about all the statistics I looked at for your 2023 season was the fact that every race, regardless of your starting position, you finished better than where you started. So you were showing improvement throughout the race. And just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I didn't know that stat. So what was that? So every race we finished better than where we started?
Yes, so your average starting position in every race was around 25th, and your average
Yeah.
finishing position in every race was 20th. So you showed at least five positions of improvement in every race.
Oh yeah. So obviously speedways we don't have a ton of single car pace, so those really hurt our starting averages. But I think that was my best career over average finishing position for the year. I believe it was 19 point something, 19.5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been making substantial improvements in that area, and we've been making substantial improvements in pretty much every area. As you know, the shot behind me says just the direction of where the team's going. So I'm happy to be a small part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as we look ahead to 2024, I know some great things are coming. Obviously, your new shop that you're getting set up now, Spire Motorsports, showing some growth. Certainly, enjoying seeing that. I know that's been the one team you've been with since you made your way into the top level of NASCAR. And how do you feel about Spire Motorsports and what they've got to offer for 2024?
I've actually been with three other teams in addition to Spire. But this is the one that really has taken my career to the next level, and really jumping on board with these guys, not knowing what was in store, what their plan were. So it's definitely been a lot of confidence in both sides to keep building this thing together, and it's been really cool to see the progress we've made with Ryan Sparks, crew chiefing, and competition directing, and just the moves that ownership's making. You want to go on the big one? My little man's trying out every one of Kyle Busch's win cars here, so maybe some talent will rub off on him a little bit. So, but it's everybody pulling the rope the same direction here, and that's what I love to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Corey, before we really move forward here, I did want to stop and touch base. So, we obviously had this interview set up last week, and some things happened that we had to kind of reschedule. And I certainly appreciate your flexibility. But one thing that did happen just prior to when the interview was going to take place is we learned of the passing of Ken Squire. I know your dad, Randy, was involved in racing there, back in the 80s and 90s, and had a great career. I actually enjoyed watching him race. But you have any favorite Ken Squire moments that you were personally able to be around as you were growing up?
Yeah, so I think so. My dad and I were talking about it last night. We actually did. So I asked Ken Squire to do me a favor and asked him to read Theodore Roosevelt's "Man in the Arena" speech. So him and his daughter Ashley recorded Ken Squire reading that speech, and we put it as like a backdrop audio for our preseason video last season. And that was really, really cool. And we used that audio to make a cool, memorable video of him this past week. So that was a big loss to the sport. Certainly Northeast legend, but just he took NASCAR and motorsports to the next level with his professionalism and how well he portrayed the sport and painted that picture. So, Dad had a couple cool Ken Squire stories, and it's cool that I was able to get a little favor from him, and I'm certainly going to value that audio pretty highly, and hopefully do some cool stuff with it in the future.
I did want to give your dad a quick shout out. So I know that he has his own business, after his racing career. I think if I remember right, it's called the Lajoie of Seating. Is that correct?
Yeah, the joy of Seaton. So we're building a lot of race seats over there and keeping people safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that kind of spawned from a crash he had. Is that right? Did I read that correctly? That he had a crash and it kind of gave him the idea of doing that?
Um, Longer. It's a long story, but he had plenty of big crashes to where he realized he probably ought to try to keep his ass safe. But yeah, it's he's got a really nice product.
Yeah, absolutely. So Corey is, one of the things I like here is I like to talk about grassroots racing, and we've certainly got plenty of local short tracks around the area. Certainly some favorites that come to mind for folks. Millbridge, of course, one of the big ones around the area. I know you said your son, we saw him in the background there checking all the cars, and he said he's maybe from town to rub off on them. So, any aspirations for your son in terms of getting into racing?
I don't know, man. It's a big question. Obviously, the cost of entry is pretty exponential these days. So we'll see. If he shows interest in it and wants to start ripping around a little bit, I'd love to help him out and see what he can do. But you know, there comes a time. I was probably 13, 14 when I really decided to go all in with racing. And I think people rush a little bit with trying to get their kids to be the next Jeff Gordon. And you can kind of burn them out. So I think there's a lot of different ways to do it. And, I want to help him do what he's passionate and lead him and help. I know what racing's done for me in terms of just discipline and, trying to really understand resilience and things like that growing up. So if he doesn't make it as a NASCAR driver, if he wants to do that to kind of keep him between the guardrails, then I would love to help him out.
Absolutely. What would you say was your favorite early memory of what made you fall in love with the sport and made you want to do it?
Man, I was probably 5 or 6. I remember walking after a Busch Series race through the garage and all the cars had the Darlington stripes and they were sandblasted, and just the smell of the rubber and the hustle and bustle. That's when I got bit by the bug. I didn't really understand what it was, but I couldn't get it out of my system at that point in time. So anytime I go back to Darlington, it definitely is a reminder of why you do it. And I go back to that spot of seeing the cars. And so, yeah, that's what that would probably be what where it really started taking some traction.
So, as your career has progressed, what would you say overall has been your favorite moment in your career?
Man, hopefully I have a lot of memorable moments to create going forward. But I haven't had a ton of great memorable Cup Series experiences yet because we're still growing as a team, growing as a race car driver, and hopefully we can punch our ticket to victory lane here next year in the Cup Series. But There's just so many memories with growing up with your buddies and going to the racetrack and winning races and the ride home. And so, one in particular is probably my first ever late model win at Rockingham. And, the odds were stacked against us and we overcame a bunch of odds. And then we were able to win the race. So that was something that was a moment I knew I was all in on racing and wanted to do it.
Absolutely. So a lot of adverse moments obviously happening throughout anyone's career, but what would you say has been the most adverse moment you've ever had to deal with?
Every week, man. The Cup Series is hard, and there's 36 professionals that make a lot of money and are really good at driving race cars, and a lot of great teams too. So I think the adversity shows up as soon as you walk through the garage, which is why I love it. Why I want to keep showing back up.
So one of the coolest things this past season that I really thoroughly enjoyed to see was, I hated to see that things that happened with Chase Elliott, but it opened up an opportunity for you to get into the Napa Chevrolet and take it around, for a race or two. How's that experience for you?
It's a long-winded answer because there's a lot of things I'd like to do, not over, but I'd like to do it again because it was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and wish we'd have finished better, but wasn't comfortable there. It was hard to settle into something that wasn't yours, and my objective was to just get a solid finish, but obviously I wanted to do more as a competitor and felt like that was my opportunity. But Gateway is probably one of the tracks I had the least amount of time at, and just I could go on, but I talked about it in the podcast at length, and having a routine and having something that's comfortable with your team and the people you're working with is certainly important. And everything happens for a reason, the week, the place, and all that. But had I went to a place where I had a little more confidence, and the team had felt more confident with what they were bringing as well. I think collectively they didn't feel good about what they brought. But we go to Dover, someplace like that, I would have had. I'd have been really let down if we didn't come around there with the top five. But there's a reason why those guys are championship contenders, and we put together a decent day, but certainly could always went better. But it was a pretty cool opportunity to get Rick Hendrick to call you to drive that 9 car for sure. So certainly it's been a process to start at the very bottom to get a call from him in your voicemail was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that speaks volumes about, the talent you have as a driver, because when you get one of these top tier NASCAR team owners to give you a call and say, hey, I want to put you in one of our best cars, certainly says a lot about your talent. One of the things that I felt like I learned from that, just from on the outside looking in, I think it's, probably been clear to a lot of folks, but I'll use Chevy as an example since that's the team you drive for. There's certain teams in NASCAR that get a lot of added benefit, and there's teams that, as you get down toward the bottom, you get kind of the scraps. Do you feel like that's even remotely coming closer together overall, or is that still kind of a challenge?
I mean, I think motorsports has always been skewed, and it's always going to be skewed. I don't think it should be even. But we've got a lot of tremendous partners with Hendrick Engines and GM starting to help out. And we're starting to get a little bit more help and resources, but we're always going to be a step behind those big teams that are deep. But our job is a race car driver and engineers and crew chiefs is to try to be a little more efficient, try to be a little smarter with those tools, and try to beat them if they have off week.
So you mentioned your podcast a few moments ago, and I did want to talk to you about that. So for those that don't know, your podcast is called Stacking Pennies. It's, I think, available virtually on pretty much any platform that's out there that you can listen to podcast on. Before we get into what your podcast is completely about, though, tell us how you came up with that name.
So Stacking Pennies comes from, I mean, it's a long one. So I cover it about once every 3-4 weeks, but more or less just doing the small details right throughout the course of the day, and every weekend is going to stack up and add. You're going to get better at those small details, and you can start adding up bigger things to ultimately hopefully get you to your goal. And the small mundane details are what ultimately sets you up for success. So that's sort of stacking pennies, and we're going to continue to stack those, and that's got me this far. So this podcast has been a lot of fun, and we've been seeing a lot of growth there, and we'll have big plans for it next season.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly has grown. I know you that started out, just you and a few other folks. Now I know it's kind of expanded. I think Danielle Trotta joined you on a regular basis now, which is kind of cool to hear. I know you guys spent the first half of the NASCAR season on Tuesdays. I believe you were on Sirius XM with her on tracks, or on track is what it's called, and covering for Larry McReynolds when he was busy with all the Fox TV coverage. And it was really neat to hear that. That's certainly where I got to hear a lot more from you, and that was a nice experience. Is that something that's going to continue, or was this just kind of a one season thing?
Yeah, we're having all those conversations now. There's a lot of players and a lot of things involved with the direction of the show. Some of them are out of my hands too, so we'll see. I know NASCAR really loves it, and they want to continue to figure out how to distribute it to more people and get it out to more ears, and maybe potentially on Sirius next year and things like that. So we'll keep working towards that. It's been unique to learn that side of the industry and kind of take the blinders off and see it from a 30,000 foot view and really engage with the audience to tell them, give them a behind the scenes look on, what it's like to be driving race cars for a living.
So I got a question from someone who follows me and is going to be viewing this video, named Jimmy Smith. I know that name rings a bell for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy laugh.
So Jimmy, his son Dylan raced at the World Short Track Championships a couple weeks ago, and Jimmy told me he wanted me to ask you what you told Dylan just before going into the short track championship races there.
I don't really recall verbatim what it was, but it's probably something like just floor it. He hadn't driven in years, so he had probably 3 hot laps and he was going to let it rip. So yeah, it's probably just don't think about it and let it rip and do what you're comfortable doing. And I'm sure he did that. I left before little man started to get a little restless like he is right now.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to see him rip around, but those guys have been friends for a long time.
Just a couple of quick questions for you, and then we'll actually wrap everything up. So, really, just now that we're into the holiday season, what's the favorite tradition around the Lajoie household for the holidays?
Man, we need to do better about that. We've always went to mom and dad's, but that's what the wife and I have been talking about, of just figuring out some certain traditions that the kids can look forward to, and something that can get everybody excited to really come together as a family with us, games or events or things like that. So I don't have anything pressing, or anything just yet, but we're trying to figure that out as a family.
I hear you. And then really, Corey, just one last question. So what are you looking forward to in 2024 with the next season coming up? I know you guys are going, I think, to Iowa for the first time, so that's going to be a neat little challenge. But anything you're really looking forward to overall?
Man, I'm excited to see the continued trajectory, progression of our team. I think we can be a playoff contending team. I think that with the people that we're adding to the team and some resources that we're getting and some elements that I'm working on as a race car driver, I think we could have a really solid year and be in the top 20 every week and give ourselves a chance to potentially do some crazy pit strategies and maybe win a race, whether it's speedway or something like that, but also point our way in and maybe be the David versus Goliath.
Yeah. So I know it's always nice to talk about the folks that pay the bills. So right before we wrap up, just a quick shout out to the sponsors that help you guys stay on the track.
Man, there's so many, man. There's obviously everybody at Spire's digging super hard right now in the off season. We got Chevrolet, Gamebridge is new to our team, and it's been a blast to work with that group. Celsius, Schluter Systems. Man, I'm not in mid-season form, so I can't rattle off my sponsor list just yet. But we've got so many good ones to keep this thing going.
Well, you hit the main ones there. I know Celsius is a big supporter of you, so just wanted to make sure you definitely got the shout out for them in there. Corey, thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to seeing you guys in 2024 and seeing that shop unfold there. It's going to be great to watch everything happen. But again, I appreciate you stepping on with us.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Once again, thank you to Corey Lajoie for joining us today. I certainly appreciate his time. Got to see the new shop they're moving into there, the old Kyle Busch racing shop there in Mooresville. It's going to be the Spire Motorsports racing shop now. It was really neat to see that in the background. And again, thank you to our sponsor, William Ryan Enterprises, for sponsoring these podcast interviews. Certainly enjoy that. And these would not be possible without them. And lastly, we're still looking to come up with a creative name for these podcast interviews. So if you've got something in mind, certainly pass those along to us in the comments. If you're looking at this on our social media pages or website, and we'll be glad to consider those. And then if you're anyone who's got a charity, local sports coach, I know high school basketball season going on right now. So any high school basketball coaches that want to come on, any coaches that have winter sports that want to come on, I would love to talk to you about your teams. Any kind of local events going on that are for nonprofits, would love to talk about those, especially since we're in the holiday season, and all that and more. We've got some great interviews coming up in January. I am looking forward to talking with Melissa Hunt, who actually runs a group called Genuine Girls. It's also there's Genuine Boys now as well, as she's expanded that. It is a great Christian-based organization that your children can get involved in. There's certain age groups that are allowed to be in there, but we're going to be talking with her about that in January, and can't wait to get that interview going as well. But for now, that's it. And as always, thank you for following Rowan County Weather. And again, if you've got any clever names that you think these podcast interviews should be called, I would certainly love to hear them from you. And just have a great day, everybody, and enjoy your holiday season.